Hi, it's me again with another update on the Chancellor's announcement last night regarding support for the self-employed. Overall, I was left somewhat disappointed by the announcement, having been quite optimistic earlier in the week. The discussion in Parliament was around support for self-employed and freelancers. So I thought that the term freelancers might indicate there might be some support for director shareholders of limited companies. A lot of people who, a lot of my clients, a lot of people out there work for themselves. They happen to operate through a limited company. They're the sole director and shareholder. And when you apply for a mortgage, they constitute you as self-employed. Whereas with HMRC, they only constitute somebody as self-employed if you have sole trade or partnership income on your tax return. So they've sort of categorized that last night, and they've been quite clear that the support for self-employed scheme that they announced isn't to provide for directors of limited companies. Little bit of clarity that they gave was that directors of limited companies may qualify for the job retention scheme, the one that you've all heard about regarding furloughed workers and getting 80% of salary. So again, even, it's good that directors may qualify. We've got some clarity on that. But even using the term to say that you may qualify for the job retention scheme is somewhat, worrying for me, because in order to qualify as a furloughed worker, then the employee should cease to work for the business. And therefore, if you're a director of a limited company, your income may be significantly affected, maybe not completely eliminated, but you're not, under the conditions as we see them at the moment, then you won't qualify for the 80% scheme either. Hopefully, HMRC and the government are going to be somewhat lenient in that, and they're not going to be questioning the working conditions of directors, but we just don't know at this stage, unfortunately. If your business has ceased, it's frozen for now, and you're going to continue in your director of a limited company, then you should qualify for the furloughed worker scheme and get 80% of salary. But again, most directors of limited companies have a salary of, £700 odd per month, and you're only going to get 80% of that, which is really disappointing. Hopefully there'll be more announcements to come, maybe with a bit of lobbying. The government will rethink the support they're going to give for directors of limited companies. But as things stand, I was pretty disappointed. If you've got any further questions on that, then by all means, we're happy to answer them. But as things stand, that's all I can offer right now. Just to get into the actual specifics for those of you who are self-employed, though, because I've got a lot of self-employed clients, and the support for them was generally received as pretty good. It does have some flaws in it, as I mentioned, and we'll get into those. But they're making it up as they go along, as I said. So in order to qualify for the scheme that was announced last night, a taxpayer has to be registered for self-employment, to have filed their 1819 tax return. Okay, just that 1 year is qualifying qualifying condition. If you've not yet filed your return for 1819, they're giving you 4 weeks to get that return filed. Now, I'm almost sure they won't accept anybody who registers for self-employment now and then tries to file a return within the next 4 weeks. But if you've filed a return, in previous years and not got around to 1819, or if you registered to file an 1819 and have not yet got around to it, then I suggest you get them in quickly. Okay. Other qualifying conditions are that your average taxable profits for the last 3 years, last 3 filed tax years, so that being 16, 17, 17, 18 and 18, 19, the average taxable profits have to be less than 50,000, which again I think is pretty unfair, really, because there's going to be some self-employed individuals, especially those living down south with high living costs, who might earn 55, 60,000 pounds a year providing for their family. After tax, that's not a significant amount of income, and they're just automatically excluded. So it's a really binary cut-off point, and I think it's somewhat unfair. They have said that it covers 95% of self-employed people, but you're still lumping together somebody who earns £55,000 a year through self-employment with somebody who earns, 600 or 700, because they said that the average was 200,000. Therefore, there's going to be a lot of people excluded from this scheme unfairly. Just one thing to be really, a key point on this is that if your average for the last 3 years was over 50,000, but your profits for 1819 alone were under 50,000, then you should still qualify. So that's good in that there are people who maybe had a good few years in 16, 17, 17, 18, but it's been reduced in 18, 19 and things aren't as good as they were. You should still be able to qualify for the scheme, which is good. Conditions are that you should be aiming to continue to trade in 2021. The business shouldn't have ceased. It shouldn't have closed. It should be operational moving forward. And another good point is that I thought was useful was that they are allowing you to continue to trade. This is a taxable grant. It's a grant. You don't have to give the money back, but it is taxable income. It essentially replaces your normal income. So you can continue to operate and in be receipt of the grant. It's just that in order to qualify, your business has to have been affected. So even if you're expecting profits to be reduced by £1 because of the crisis, then you should qualify for this support, which is a good thing. Again, slightly unfair, really. One of my issues with the job retention scheme for employees was that employees have to stop work in order to qualify for the 80%. They couldn't, you couldn't put half your team, all your team on 50% hours and then get some support there. You had to make a very binary choice about them working or not. Whereas with the self-employed scheme, you can continue to work while still being in receipt of the grant, which is, again, probably somewhat unfair. The grant itself is going to be 80% of the average taxable profits for that 3-year period, okay? Or up to a maximum of £2,500, all right? So if your taxable profits were £40,000 a year, you're not going to get 80% of 40,000. You're going to get £2,500 per month. All right. The way it's going to be administered is that HMRC are saying this scheme isn't going to be ready till June. All right. So you've got to get through, as it were, April. The month of March, as we're all affected. April and May. And then they said they're hoping it'll be ready for early June. So I can't see it being ready till probably mid to late June. You don't have to do anything right now. HMRC will, they're going to analyse the previous year's filed tax returns. They're going to contact the people who they think qualify, and you will be asked to complete a form online, I would imagine. And upon receipt of that form, in which you're going to state that your business had been affected, etc., they should issue you a direct repayment at that point. Just one point that I'd be really careful with here is that because HMRC are going to contact the taxpayer, I think that opens up, there's a lot of scams out there. So HMRC do not contact people by email and text to say, we're going to issue you a repayment, give us your bank details. A lot of people get caught out by those, and a lot of my clients ask about them regularly. So in the meantime, just be vigilant, because we don't want people, being contacted in May when people are desperate for a refund by email or by text, and giving people their bank details or credit card details in order to think they're getting a refund from HMRC. Be quite careful. I think it'll be quite clear when HMRC get in touch. They'll know your income details. They'll be sending you the right forms. It'll be a secure portal, etc. So just be careful. They mentioned that the scheme may be extended. So at this moment in time, like everything, they're just trying to get everybody through the next 3 months. We'll reassess in June where things stand at that point. So there's a lot of people saying, okay, right, so it's great. I've looked at my last 3 years' income. I'm entitled to this amount of money. Let's say you earn £2,500 per month on average, so you're going to get a couple of £1,000s per month from HMRC, which is pretty good news for a lot of people. But that's £6,000 over the next 3 months. What do I do in the meantime? It made me laugh, actually. In the announcement, he literally suggested borrowing money, in some as far that he suggested accessing the Corona business interruption loan scheme, which in a previous video I've talked about, and I think there's some flaws in that system as well, to be honest. So I think that's a difficult road to take. I can't see the funds being ready that soon. But just remember, those of you self-employed are due to make a July payment on account towards your tax bills, which HMRC are allowing you to automatically defer. So you've got the July payment on account that you could use that money to tide you over, wait for the grant, and then when the grant comes in, use that money to pay the July payment on account that is going to be coming due next January. If you're VAT registered, they're allowing you to defer your VAT bill for this quarter till any point between now and the end of the tax year. So that's April next year. So you could use essentially VAT money. And, as an accountant, it pains me to suggest people use their tax and VAT money to pay their personal bills, but these are pretty extenuating circumstances, so I understand why people will need to. If you've got small business premises, you've got the grant scheme, which I've talked about previously. So again, that's going to be administered by local councils. They should get in touch with you when they're ready to start issuing grants. And I think the final point I'll make really regarding where his announcement was that he alluded to an increase in national insurance, which I thought was interesting. He's saying he made the point that, okay, so self-employed people don't pay as much as employed people. There's no employer's national insurance on being self-employed, and the class 4 national insurance for the self-employed is 9%, whereas employees pay 12%. And he made the point about we're all in this together and things need to be equalised. So I would looking that far into the future, probably shouldn't do right now, but I think as a result of this scheme, we're going to see an increase in national insurance for the self-employed. I think they also made the point, just thinking about it, that in the meantime, they suggested that if your income's been drastically reduced as a result of the coronavirus outbreak, then your reduced income might entitle you to apply for enhanced universal credit under the universal credit scheme. So if you've been significantly affected, then that might be something to look at. But in the questions that came, and a lot of the stuff I've read since the announcement, the universal credit process faces a lot of criticism, and time delays. I think applications take 5 weeks. People were saying, I've not accessed it, so I can't be sure, but that might be something to consider. So that's everything we know right now. Hopefully it's been useful for you. And if you want to ask any questions, as always, then get in touch and we'll do what we can to help. Thanks very much. Bye.